guys, it's Charlotte and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about a highly requested video, one that I'm actually surprised has taken me this long to record. But today we're talking all about page speed and how it relates to Squarespace SEO. So page speed, you might have heard this term thrown around sometimes. Page speed, page load time, kind of same but different. But basically what it is it's the amount of time that it takes to display the full content of a page. So we're talking about the text, the images, any bits of code that you have. Like for example, if you've inserted to a third-party email newsletter subscriber or any other type of code, whatever it is, it's the amount of time that it takes to display that to the person visiting the page. So it sounds pretty straightforward, but you might be like, okay, why do I need to know that? Like, why does that information matter, let alone what role does it have in Squarespace SEO? So I am here to tell you about that. And in this video, I'm also going to show you a few examples using a real Squarespace SEO or Squarespace website. And I'm going to show you a tool that you can use to check your site speed, your page load speed. So be sure to watch that and you'll learn everything there is to know on this topic. Okay, so when it comes to page load speed, let's break this down a little bit more into kind of why we want to know this info and why it has an impact on Squarespace SEO. So let's think about it. The very first reason why page speed matters so much is that it's from a user experience point of view. Because think about it, if someone lands on a page on your website, whether it's like an index page, a regular page, a blog page, a product page, event page, any type of pages that you might have set up on your website, and if they land on that page and it's really slow to load all of the content, then they're going to be, first of all, annoyed, right? They're going to be like, why is this taking so long? And also too, it's been proven that when a page has a slow load speed, it has an increased bounce rate, a higher bounce rate, which means that people land on the page, it's slow to load, so they get annoyed or frustrated and they're like, oh, okay, bye, and leave. So that means that's a bad thing from a user experience point of view when the page load speed is slow and therefore you have a higher bounce rate. Another reason why it's bad from a user experience point of view is that people spend less time on the page itself. So the time spent on the page decreases. And that's another big factor because imagine someone lands on your page, they've come up through a random Google result or something like that. You want them to spend time on the page. You want them to read the full long form content, view all of the images in your portfolio, whatever it is, right? So if they're not spending that much time on the page itself, then they're missing out on all of the amazing content that you're creating for them. And then another reason why it's bad for user experience point of view is that when there is a slow page load speed, it also has a negative impact on conversions. And so conversions can mean many different things depending on the type of page you're going for, what your goals are, whatever. But it might be things like signing up for a newsletter, inquiring to book a service, purchasing a product, viewing more content, so like related posts in a blog post or any kind of social engagement, like it, comment, share it, whatever. There's lots of different metrics for conversions, but when the page is slow to load, it has a negative impact on that. And then also too, when a page is slow to load, Google cares a lot about that too, because you might have heard page load time or like the load speed, whatever, is a big factor in Google's algorithm. And you might know if you've watched any of my other videos that Google comes to your page and they're crawling and indexing all of the content on your website. And they only kind of have something called like a crawl availability budget, and they can only really do so much on it with the budget that they have allocated to your site. And if your pages are really slow to load, then they can't maybe get the full indexation of your site as easily. And so that can have a negative impact on how your site shows up in search results. So yeah, basically like you should care about page speed from a user experience point of view, like the real humans that are interacting with your site, but also for Google and other search engines that are crawling and indexing your site and trying to, rank you higher in search results. That obviously is the goal for it. So, Yeah, so we talked about that. So now let's go into some of the best practices. Like, what are things that you can do on your Squarespace site to, help improve it, right? So one of the biggest things, like probably the most important ones that you can do, you who's watching this, I know the kind of people that are watching this, one of the biggest things is working on the images on your site, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen here and show you an example of a Squarespace website. Okay, cool. So this is just a demo Squarespace website that I have. I think it uses the Raleigh template in 7.0, but whether you're using 7.0, 7.1, like it doesn't really matter for this. But I want you to take a look at like the images. So here, this is a very basic like fake homepage that I've done. I've got a banner image there, another full width banner image, another one, blah, 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 blah. But like when we're talking about images, think a bit more so about an image that you might have on the page or in a gallery, or, you have a portfolio piece or something like that. So when it comes to images, obviously, you want to make sure that they're named properly, like, so if you're clicking the image here, you want to make sure that like the file name here is not just, like an Unsplash default name, but that you're naming it properly for SEO. But specifically for the page load speed that you want to make sure that the image is really compressed, and so that it's not a large file size, because if the bigger the image is, the longer it's going to take to load it properly. So you might want to use a tool to compress your images like Tiny PNG. Let me just open that up here for you. So yeah, if you have an image and you're like, wow, I can see that the file size is really big, first compress it here using a tool like Tiny PNG or whatever, and then go and upload it to your Squarespace site, okay? And so again, this might mean that for many of you, if you've gone through and you've noticed that you have a slow page load speed, you might then need to kind of like reformat, recompress, and then re-upload the images to your Squarespace website so that you have a more positive like page speed. And that is something that is 100% worth your while, okay? Like images, this is one of the biggest things, whether you're talking about images on a page, images in your product descriptions, images on an event page, like services page, whatever, images are huge. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about as well is minimize any of like clean up or compress or even minimize the code that you're using on your Squarespace website. So, you might have like, let's say like a countdown timer code, or maybe you have like a code to do your custom like email newsletter. Like maybe you're using not just Squarespace's email campaigns, but maybe like another thing like ConvertKit or MailerLite or like Active Campaign. I don't know, any of those types of things. And then what you're doing is you're like inserting, let me show you here, like you would insert here a code block, right? And so basically one of the things you want to do is like on a page by page, or if you're using like site-wide code, then you want to make sure that the code is going to be clean, compressed. You're getting rid of anything that you no longer need, because when there's code on the page, it like Google has to, first of all, it has to like load and display and stuff, but then also Google has to read it in order to index it properly. So I have another video that talks a bit more about code. I'm going to link to that one up above, so you can take a look at that if you haven't already, but this is a big thing. Okay, another thing that I want to talk about is reducing any URL redirects. Okay, so maybe you have something like here, let me show you, this is a good example. Okay, so here, shameless plug, I have a Squarespace SEO checklist on my website. Like it's a free one-page download. And if you're watching this, I 100% recommend that you download it, even if if you're in any way, shape, or form interested in Squarespace SEO. But see here that the URL is charlotteohara.ca/SS-SEO checklist. What if I set up a URL redirect so that it's just charlotteohara.ca/checklist? Okay, so that's great, but it does, if you were to set up a URL redirect like that, the more of them that you have in place, the slower it could be to load the page, right? Because you have to go from one to another, and then display the proper page. So the more kind of URL redirects that you have in place, it may negatively impact the page speed. So this is something you might want to consider as well. And then last but not least, I'm pretty sure everyone that's going to be watching this video is using a Squarespace website. But if you're not and you're kind of on the fence about like, oh, should I switch from my old, maybe you have like a WordPress site that's hosted on some random hosting platform and you're like, maybe I should go to Squarespace. I would 100% recommend you do it, because the host that you use for your website can have a really big impact on the page speed as well. Like, how much power do they have loading those pages for you? And Squarespace is an incredible platform for many different reasons. But one of the things I love so much is that they're going to do everything they can to make sure that their platform and their hosting is as strong as can be, so that you get that all the like functionality to load the page so quickly. So those are some of the main ones that I wanted to talk to you guys about that have a Squarespace website. So again, whether you have a kind of like a blog that has lots of different images about, like food or lifestyle or fashion or, events or something, or if you have like a services page, kind of like what I've shown you here, like on the home page or some of the services page. Let's see here, like in this case, these pages of like this size, if yours is even like slightly similar to this demo page, you're probably not going to have too much problems. But it would be maybe if you have like a lot of photo galleries, if you're like a photographer or an interior designer, any other type of thing that would have a lot of galleries or portfolio collections, then those would be something that you really need to think about, because the text is going to load quickly, but it's like images, code, any other like things that you're embedding on the page that might make it load a little slower. Okay, now I wanted to show you, because you might be like, oh, well, how do I test my page load speed? And there's lots of different tools you can use, and depending on the tools you use, you may see like similar or slightly different things. But one of the basic ones I would suggest is just start off by looking at Google's PageSpeed Insights. It's pretty straightforward. You can follow the steps and take a look at that. But there's many other tools you can use that will give you some insight into what your page speed or page load time is. Okay. And all right, let me stop share. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm back. And the last thing that I wanted to say too is that most of you who are going to be watching this, you have probably a fairly small site, all things considering. You probably don't have like that many pages. You're probably not working with like an insane amount of images, unless maybe you're like a photographer or a designer or like anything that has like lots of portfolio gallery type things. So in most cases, if you follow these steps that I've outlined, you're going to have a decent page load speed, and that's going to be amazing, working you well for SEO on your Squarespace website, and that's incredible. But if you do run it and notice that you have a slower than you would like page load speed, then there are things you can do to improve that. And the more you improve your page load speed, the more Google will reward you for your efforts. So that is everything for this video that I wanted to bring up. Again, if you haven't already, make sure that you grab that Squarespace SEO checklist that I showed you before. I've linked to it down below in the description. And if you're watching, if this on YouTube, you can grab it there. But if you're reading the blog post, then it's here in the post and you can grab it. It's amazing. It's been downloaded by literally thousands of people. So I know you're in good hands and good company when it comes to that SEO checklist. And if you are interested in Squarespace SEO, growing your website, online business, conversions, any of those sorts of things, then take a look at the other blog posts or video tutorials, all the other resources I have on my website, because I've got you covered with that and I know you'll find it helpful. And last but not least, if you liked this video, be sure to like it, give it a thumbs up. You can leave a comment down below letting me know that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer it. And last but not least, you can subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss any of the amazing content that I have scheduled for you over the next little while, because I know you're going to love it. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. I hope it explained page load speed and you now have an understanding of what it means and why it's important for Squarespace SEO. And I will see you again soon in another video. Bye guys.